Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to give it about a minute or two for people to join, and then, of course, we'll get started. Again, thank you for joining us. We're going to give it another minute or so until the waiting room empties out, and then we'll get started. It looks like the joins are slowing down, so I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So thank you for joining us today for the eGrants Practice to Perfect. Today we're going to be talking about FY26 contracting and technical assistance. For those of you who don't already know me, my name is Ashley Renich-Malik. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Grants Administration Specialist at MOVA. Before we get started, I'm going to do some housekeeping so we're all on the same page. That includes letting you know that this is a Zoom webinar, so you cannot be seen or heard as audience members. If you have questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A function and not the chat function to ask them. We will go over all of your questions both throughout, but mostly at the end of the presentation where we have time allotted to do so. We will, of course, be recording this presentation and posting it to our website. We hope to get both these slides in PDF file and the recording onto our website no later than the end of this week. So that will be available to you and your colleagues then. So like I mentioned, today we'll be walking through the FY26 contracting process together, answer some frequently asked questions, some that we've already gotten, and then have an open question and answer session at the end where you may ask questions using that Q&A feature. Please note that the following walkthrough that we go through together and all of the training materials, which will be linked throughout the session, will apply to all FY26 MOVA awards, which at this time includes CSVS, VSS, and SafePlan. There are small differences between them, and when those do occur, we will walk through what those are. So at this point, I will allow others to introduce themselves as they'll be presenting throughout, and I'll pass the mic to Amelia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Amelia Pease, and I am the data manager at MOVA.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kristen Tavano. I am the Deputy Director of Grants Administration at MOVA.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hannah Hanchett, and I am the Data Coordinator.
Good afternoon, Kristen Wen, Director of Grants Administration at MOVA. And since I am the last to introduce myself, I think maybe we could start with some brief opening remarks from me before the team kicks off the training. So I just wanted to thank everyone for joining us today. We're grateful to be able to provide this technical assistance session, which is focused on the FY26 grants contracting, which is taking place in MOVA's electronic grants management system, eGrants. So Ashley and the team will provide a thorough overview today of what that process looks like. Many of you are familiar with it at this point. We have been doing contracting in the system for a few years now, so hopefully this TA session can answer any questions that you may have about the process. A few things that I just wanted to say while we're here today. We're pleased that despite many challenges and uncertainties that exist around federal funding right now, we were able to prioritize and move forward with awards for this year. We know how much it means to the programs and the communities that you serve. And at the same time, we also want to acknowledge the very real uncertainty that has come around and continues to surround federal funding and its availability. Like many of you, we're navigating the federal funding picture and the state budget picture in real time, and we remain committed to sharing the updates and information as soon as it becomes available to us. Later in this presentation, during the question and answers portion, Kristen Tavano will be sharing some more details and reminders about how you can be involved in MOVA's budget advocacy for state funding in the future. Lastly, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the MOVA team that has prepared this presentation today, and all the work that has been done and will continue to be done in the next phase of contracting with your organization. The efforts are greatly appreciated from the MOVA team and from your organizations. So that's all I wanted to say today. I will be around for the webinar and we'll be helping with questions and answers towards the end, and feel free to drop any questions throughout in the questions function on Zoom. So with that, we can get started. Thanks, Ashley.
All right, now into the meat and potatoes of the presentation. So as many of you probably already know, the VWAB voted on awards on Monday, and applications on eGrants were pushed to pre-contract adjustments required. So you should have received an automated email from eGrants if you have one of the applicable roles. We'll talk about all that in a moment. If you believe that you should have received that email, please first look in your junk or other inboxes. That's where all my automated eGrants communications ends up. And if you still don't see it there, go ahead and reach out to your program coordinator for further troubleshooting to make sure that the appropriate people are receiving those notifications and then having the correct permissions to continue throughout this process. So contracting in eGrants will consist of actions within the application, the finalizing of the contact information page, and initiating and submitting the goals and key outcomes. Of course, we'll talk about all of these steps in detail as we go throughout, but those are the high-level requirements for this process. As has occurred in the past few years as well, we do have one off eGrants contracting requirement, which is when the authorized signatories receive and sign either the standard contract or ISA. We'll walk through what some of that looks like later as well. That will occur in June. The most important date I wanted to share with you all today is the fact that all contracting materials, which will include the OMT goals and key outcomes, the contact information on eGrants, and then everything else in the application that we talk about today, will be due to MOVA on eGrants no later than May 30th, so the end of this month. So this is an example of the email that the applicable roles should have received on Monday. Those roles will be agency administrator, application submitter, or authorized representative. You do need to have one or more of those roles to move forward in doing the contracting process. That's just the permissions that we have set up on eGrants. If possible, having one of these roles is preferred to more than one because eGrants gets confused. So go ahead and make sure that you, your colleagues, or people who need to be engaged in the contracting process have, again, one preferably of these roles, so that you can do all of the things we talked about today. So at this point, I am going to log into eGrants and walk through the whole process. I do have notes on my other screen, so please forgive me if I look the other direction so that I don't miss anything. All right. So eGrants will look like the following. I will be using the live site today, so it looks a little bit more similar to what you all will actually be seeing. I will be logging in as a test user role with the roles, I think, of agency administrator and application submitter. So that is 1, 2 of the correct roles to do this process. So go log in, and then you should have a home screen that looks something like something similar to this. So this dashboard oftentimes will include a My Tasks panel and a My Opportunities panel. We're not going to work with My Opportunities today, so you can ignore that for the time being. And then there's this My Tasks panel, which we will work with today. If you don't have one or both of these panels, it's not the end of the world. You don't need these panels to do things either now or later in eGrants. But they do prove to be helpful, I hear, a lot of the time. So if you want these panels, you can reach out to your program coordinator to get those set up. So of course, the first thing we need to do together is to navigate to the application we'll be walking through together. There are 3 different ways to do that, and I will demonstrate all of them here. The first one will be using my tasks. So as you see, there's a bunch of random things on here because of course this is a test role. So what we will do, my little trick that I use for things that have occurred most recently is using these buttons up here as organizers. So if I click specifically on status date, it will first organize it from the furthest back date to forward. That's not very useful. We're not dealing with things from 2022. So I could scroll down. I'm lazy, so I'm going to click this again and reorganize this so it's the most recent thing forward. That will occur with all of these different filters if you do, mostly in terms of alphabetical order, but for this it's dates. So here we're seeing yesterday I set up this test case for us, and this will be how I find our test case here today. So I could just click into this and then move forward with the process. I do want to share a couple of other ways for navigating into the application in case the My Tasks feature is not available for you or something you don't want to use. Personally, not my favorite. My favorite, if available to you, is clicking search and then this recent documents tool, which is right up top for everyone. If you have navigated to your application recently, then it will be up here. So we only have 3 because I've been testing these 3 2026 applications to make sure they work for you. But if you have many things that you've been working on in eGrants, especially over the past few months, and you haven't clicked in for a while, your application might not be up here right now, but hopefully once you do click into it, it will be. So I can just easily click into, we're going to use the safe plan one here today as an example, but I can easily click into this here, take me to the document landing page, and then we can move forward. The last way I want to show you how to navigate is to click. So this search tool or all the different search pages that you could go to. Of course, for contracting, we're working with applications. So I would click into application. And then my tip here is to use no filters. Doing so will not make you access everything in the system, only the things that you have access to. And since we've only used eGrants for, a handful of years, only a few things will pop up for you. So at this point, where there's not a lot of data in here, I just recommend not using filters at all because the filters can sometimes act up and be a little bit wonky. So I'll do that as an example here, and we'll see all of the applications that I have access to in this test role, which seems to be just 23 and 26, will pop up here. So like I mentioned before, we're going to be using this safe plan test application. I'm going to click in here. So in here, we will see that we're in the status of pre-contract adjustments required. That's exactly what we want to see, so that's great. And I will also see that my role is agency administrator and application submitter. Like I said, I only need one of those roles. I have both here, so that is also good. The first place I want to direct us to before we get into the contracting requirements will be this help tab up top. This is something that we added last year into a lot of our processes so that we could have just a quick place in eGrants on site for you to refer to for some of our best tips or links. So here up top, you'll see help page for safe plan application. So this was available during the application process. What you'll want to do is scroll down to the contracting page. So they're on the same page, just a little bit further down. You'll find all of the relevant information that we'll talk about here today. It's not going to have step-by-step of what you need to do, but we have eGrants tips in here about what to do, such as, using the green plus or red minus for adding or subtracting rows into the cost category or budget pages. Some of those hot button tips that we oftentimes want to share with you all. So there's some good stuff in here. My favorites are these resource pages here at the bottom. The eGrants webpage will take you to all of our eGrants resources, including this webinar recording and the slides that we go through today. And then the forms and resources page will have other relevant contracting and other relevant MOVA information on there as well. So juicy information there. Of course, you're seeing this for Safe Plan, but you'll see the same thing for CSCS and VSS as well. So we're going to skip past the error checks that we're seeing up here and go first to the contracting form, which will be fairly similar for everyone. So here up top, we're seeing 3 error checks. These are great. These do not mean that these 3 things are the only 3 things required for your contracting form. I do want to make sure that even though there are 3 error checks, that's because those are the 3 personalized pieces of information that MOVA has prepared for each applicant, and we'll talk through those in a moment. But if you look into your contract conditions, which will be found here when you click on them, that will outline each and every form and each and everything that you need to submit to us for contracting. So up top, what you will be able to do is click on the links, either the ones that are personally uploaded for you. So if this is organization Cats for Justice, this would say notification of award Cats for Justice or CFJ, my favorite organization. We would download that, review the information, sign it, and then re-upload it here. So let's pretend we did that because I do want to make sure we're able to submit this at the end. I do have some sample files. These are not real files, so we're not going to be opening them together, but we'll do it for the example. Next is the award letter addendum. Again, this is specific to Cats to Justice, so we would click on this link, review all the information, comply with the information if necessary, sign it, and then re-upload it. Let's pretend we did all of those things, and then we're re-uploading here. So this is award letter addendum, upload here. The next 2 forms we have are the match waiver determination. So this is if you apply to a match waiver for this fiscal year, you will have a match waiver determination letter. So you will download this and review it and then keep it for your records. This is not one that you have to sign and return to us, which is why there's no upload button underneath. Similarly, there's the monitoring level notification. This is a new feature in the form, but this is something that you all do receive every year. So this is the monitoring level that's assigned to your agency for the fiscal year of 2026. Again, you will download the link, review the information, and then keep it for your files. You will not need to sign this and upload this like the previous forms. If there's anything additional that we have for you, which I know because I uploaded a lot of these, we don't have anything new for you all, so you can ignore this section for the time being. And we're going to keep going. We'll come back to the award amount in a second. But as you can see, the best piece of information on here is FY26 award amount. So this will be here. Of course, you won't be able to change it. That's something we put in for you. Contract conditions is the last personalized piece of information that we have in here. So this is contract conditions for Cats for Justice, CFJ. Again, we would download, review the information, comply with all the information, sign it, and re-upload here. So Cats for, oh, I'm looking for contract conditions. So we did that. All right. The majority of these forms will be required for the majority of subrecipients. In your contract conditions, it will outline which forms and which buttons you need to pay attention to on this form. So I'm not going to go through each of them, but similar to the personalized pieces of information, this document, for example, the certifications regarding lobbying, debarment, suspension, and other responsibility matters form, you would download this, review it, sign it, and re-upload here. So you would do that for each of the linked forms as is required. At the, I already have this clicked in here. We do have an indirect rate section. So you would select your relevant indirect rate and then upload a letter if relevant, rental or lease agreements if relevant, and then anything additional that we either require of you to finalize contracting. I logged out of my notes. I'm gonna log back in, make sure I'm not missing anything for you all. All right. So at this point, you do want to make sure that you save the page because you did all of this hard work and we don't want it to disappear. For those of you who aren't super familiar with eGrants, eGrants is not like a Google product or some of the more advanced Microsoft products where it automatically saves the page. You do need to manually save. Oftentimes, if you try to navigate away without saving, it may prompt you. It is a little bit wishy-washy, so I do want to just like nail it into everyone that we do need to be saving because I don't want you to be doing all of this important work and then losing it because you either got logged out of the system or went somewhere else without saving. So let's pretend we uploaded all these things and we are done with the contracting form. We do see that the error checks went away because those 3 pieces of information that were personalized to were submitted. Like I said before, that does not mean that the whole form is done, but we're going to pretend in this case we uploaded everything. So the next thing we're going to do together is work on the budget. So we have our award amount here. We will be required to click into the summary of costs page for Safe Plan, for CSCS and VSS. I believe it's called something like the budget summary page, or budget summary with match, budget summary without match. The language is a little bit different, but it is the same thing. So here you will see the FY26 award amount copied over, and then what you had requested during the application. For many of you, this may match, so that will be great. If not, you will be required to edit the budget until it does match. So we are going to do that together. Whether or not it doesn't match, you may want to make changes to your budget. So what we're going to do together is see that we have a $1 difference, 97431 to 97430. So I'm going to go into our office supplies category and then just add $1 into one of these. I'll just do it for office supplies. So 131 instead of 130 and save. So the last thing we have to do, even though theoretically at this time the budget number matches the award amount, we do have to click into the summary of costs. Anytime you make a change to the budget, whether that be changing even, one brochure to multiple brochures, whatever it may be, it does require that you click back into the summary of costs page. And now, because the award amount section and the total request section match, it's no longer going to be that at us. So you love to see that. So that will be how you update the budget, similar to how you did the application or how you do expenditure reporting. There are all of the same functions in the budget as are in those other forms we just talked about. So you can use the green plus button or the red minus button to add or delete rows. You can add or subtract things as you see fit. So all of that will be included there. So at this point, I do want to call attention to the court coverage page. So this is specific to Safe Plan. So CSCS and VSS, you can pause your brains for maybe 7 minutes. But we're going to talk about a new requirement that's specific to Safe Plan for FY26. So when we click into the court coverage page, we are seeing that there's an exclamation point here. That might not occur because eGrants has felt spicy recently. So even if there is not an exclamation point, you will still need to do this. So I hope that the exclamation point is there, but if not, this will still be a requirement because it's a new thing. So in your contract conditions, you may have a condition that requires you to make some sort of update to your court coverage agreement form. You can do that here. What we're seeing is I'm kind of zoomed in, right? Because I'm presenting and sometimes it's really difficult to see things really tiny, but I'm going to zoom out just for a quick second so we can see that there's this plus and minus signs that I was talking about before. These function the exact same way as they do in the budget as they do in the court coverage agreement form. I just want to make sure we're all aware of that. And then I zoomed out in order to see those, but if I zoom back in and I want to be able to see, I can also use this scroll bar here, at the bottom in order to see that. So make any updates that you need to the court coverage agreement form if necessary. And then down here, we have this memorandum of understanding MOU section, which is new for all Safe Plan applicants and awardees this year. So what you'll do is download this. It'll probably specifically say memorandum of understanding, spelled out all nicely. This is just a sample document, but similar to the documents we talked about in the contracting form, you will click on this, you will review it, you will sign it, and then re-upload here. This is a mandatory requirement for all Safe Plans, so we're going to do that here to satisfy the error check, and save. All right, so we have gotten rid of all the exclamation points and we think, wow, this is great. That was so straightforward. I hope everyone is thinking. We can just submit, right? eGrants technically will let you submit. I am telling you, you are not done. You will need to, everyone, even if you completed your contact information in the application process, which thank you if you did, I will still need everyone to go into their contact information page in order to review that information, make sure that it's still up to date so that we can contact you, the appropriate people at the appropriate time with the appropriate information. So in order to do that, you see I already snapped my mouse over here. I'm going to click on my name up here in the green button in the upper right hand corner and click on profile. There are other ways to get to this. This is just the easiest way to do it. So that's what we're going to do. This pop-up is saying, are you sure you want to navigate away without changing the status of the document? I'm confirming yes, we do want to do that because we're not technically done with all of our contracting information. We will come back to this, but this is an important reminder that if you think you've submitted everything, you're like, wow, I'm done. I did do the contact information. I did do the MOU. I did do the contracting. I did all of the things. I feel really good about that. If you're getting this reminder, eGrants is telling you that you didn't change the status. It is like a weird little eGrants perk, right? You're not clicking submit. You're not clicking like something that's super intuitive. We have this special technology that requires us to like change the status. So this is just a friendly reminder that if you haven't changed the status and you feel like you should have, you will go ahead and do that. So if that were the case, you would click cancel and then change the status, but we're going to move away. We've been trying to build in some of those extra pop-ups, the save one, the changing status one, just because the eGrants technology is sometimes not the most intuitive. So we will land on our personal information page, and then what I just did is you'll see, so your personal information will be up here. You'll have all these different tabs here. We will click on the last one, the contact information page. That was easy for me to do because I did see that there was an error check there. You may or may not have error checks depending on what you already have in there. I've set this up so there are errors, but in any case, you'll want to review the information in here. So we're seeing right up top that I don't have agency leadership contact information filled out. I do want to fill that out here to get there today, but I'm just going to look at everything and make sure that it's correct. So we have Tufi as our state plan advocate. We have Izzy as our senior state plan advocate. Maisie as our president. We have Daisy as our data manager. And then we don't have any optional additional contact information. So this is allowed to stay blank. Also using, I'm going to make this tiny here. Also using this green plus button or the subsequent red negative button, we can add or delete additional contact information. So if you have someone who's like really specific to one particular thing, or an additional data manager, additional like an alternative programmatic contact, you would put that in here as well. And then make sure you describe what the contact is used for so we know. And then here at the bottom is the authorized signatory section. So some of you will have contract conditions that require you to update this in one way or another. I do have this fully prepared for us here so we know what it's supposed to look like. So this name, Maisie Foster, her authorized signatory title, her correct email address, all of this will also be reflected in the CASEL form. If you have if you have multiple people in your CASEL form, it doesn't matter. We need one of those people that's listed in the chart to be listed out here, and that will be the person who receives the standard contract or ISA come June. If this is something that you need to update, what you'll go ahead and do is click on the CASEL form here, fill it out, and re-upload here, and then save. So I'm going to say that this is the correct information, so I'm not going to do anything to update here, but I am required to update this agency leadership contact information. And because these are the only 4 people, four cats who work at Cats for Justice, I'm going to repeat Maisie's information. So our contract manager is going to also be our agency leadership contact information. So that is allowable and reasonable. So I'm just going to copy her information. So I don't have to make up any more cats. Right. So when I finish doing that, I will save the page and we'll see the error checks up here and the error check in the left-hand panel disappear, which is what we want. All right. So we see that the contact information page is happy. That means Ashley will also be happy. All right. So at this point, this will be the time in which I will recommend that you submit your pre-contract adjustments to MOVA. So to do that, we could use one of the three methods I talked about in the beginning of the presentation to navigate back to the application. I'm going to use the fastest one in my opinion, and that's the recent document one. So we're going to click into Save Plan. Everything is still saved and good to go. I'm going to click Pre-Contract Adjustments Submitted, and then you get this. Are you sure you want to do it? Are you sure? Are you sure? Yes, we are sure. And then we're refreshed onto the document landing page again. We do have the status updated to pre-contract adjustments in review or pre-contract adjustments review. This is your first confirmation that it has gone through to MOVA. There will be, and I'll pull up my slides in a second to show an example. There will be an email that's sent to the relevant roles, agency administrator, application submitter, and authorized representative. Even if you didn't work, even if you didn't do anything, if you have one of those roles, you will get the notification. So just FYI. But you will get an email that says you did it. But this is your first step for checking that, because that email sometimes ends up in weird places or takes like 15 minutes to get to you. So pre-contract adjustments review has been submitted to MOVA. So at this point, we're going to switch back into my slides and talk about that email, if it will let me. All right, we talked about contact information, so check mark there. So we talked about the document landing page and how this is your first line of defense in seeing if you have submitted or not. Because I know, again, the technology is wonky and it doesn't say like you have submitted. Sometimes it does. This time it didn't, so be it. Pre-contract adjustments review, so that's good. This is an example of the email that you will receive. Safe Plan, so this is the test we were just doing together, submitted for MOVA's contracting review. It does say MOVA will reach out to you via eGrants with any follow-up or questions. So we'll talk about that now. So if we require more information from you, things were missed, we have additional questions, whatever it may be, you or anyone with any of those roles we talked about, AA, agency administrator, AR, authorized representative, or application submitter, will receive this email. It says, again, your contract is in need of pre-contract adjustments required. This email is exactly the same as the initial email you received for pre-contract adjustments required. We just go back and forth between the two statuses until we move forward. So this is not an error. This is legit. Definitely make sure that you pay attention to this. So it says, please log into eGrants, navigate to your application, and click on the notes section from the left-hand panel to view MOVA's questions and feedback. Make whatever necessary adjustments that we need from you to the grant application, and then resubmit for review. So this is what the notes section will look like. You will scroll down to the tools area. You'll see notes here. And I don't know if you've noticed recently, if you've been there, our notes section got a glow up. So there's this big green note button, which is a little much for me, but that's okay. And then in here, we'll have something like the following. Please make the following adjustments and resubmit to MOVA no later than May 25th. Resubmit the CASTLE form and the contact information page with a wet signature. Upload a current lease. These are just examples of things that we could send back to you. Of course, there's a plethora of different things that we could send. But in a perfect world, what we would then do in this example is resubmit the CASTLE with a wet signature and upload a current lease. I've talked for a long time. I think you all know how to do that. We can provide personalized and individualized troubleshooting and technical assistance if these are things you want to talk about off screen, but we're going to pretend that we did that and that we resubmitted. So the one piece of the process that will occur off of eGrants, as I alluded to at the beginning of the presentation, is the signing of the standard contract and or ISA. So in the beginning of June, MOVA will send authorized signatories their contracts to be signed via Adobe Sign. It will look something like this. As you can see, this is an example from 2022, so this may have been slightly updated from then, but you will see something that might look like spam. I do want to share here, and I will probably share in the future, it's not spam. This is legit. It's unfortunate that the formatting of this looks like spam, since we're all very well trained in not being, what's it called, phished, but it's not. So your authorized signatory, the one that you indicated at the bottom of the contact information page that we were just on together, will receive an email that looks like this from MOVA's fiscal team. Down, I have the sharing. Okay, I had to move my little Zoom bar, but down here, this will be a button that says review and sign. Your authorized signatory will click that, they'll sign it, and then that will get sent back to our fiscal team. They won't have any further follow-up from them. So in June, we encourage you, if you're the authorized signatory, or you to encourage your authorized signatory, whoever that may be, to be checking their emails, including their junk or other inboxes, because this could be filtered into phishing or scams or spam, even though it's not, so that they receive this and that it doesn't expire and we don't have to send it multiple times. So we send it the one time, they review, they sign it, and then we can move on. So once this is signed, we send it to our Liam, and then we upload it into eGrants. At the end of the contracting form, there will be a section for us to upload the executed contract that will only be available in the status of contract executed, but that's, what will occur. We'll approve the contracting information, we'll push it to our fiscal team to upload the executed contract, and then they will push it to the status of contract executed. Once in the status of contract executed, you can move forward with conducting your grant. You will be able to start expenditure reporting if it's that time. You can download the finalized contract. You can download the final budget. Whatever you need to do will be then available to you. All right, so at this time, I'm going to take a quick breather, stop sharing my screen, and see if there are questions for me to answer.
Nothing's come in the Q&A. Actually, one just came in. Can you go over what the files, if any, might need to be uploaded under subrecipient, additional uploads at the bottom of the contracting page at this point in the process?
Yeah, I can answer that. That will be specific to each agency, if anything at all. The place you will find that information will be on your contract conditions, the one contract conditions form, the one that you download. One example of what you might see is explain X on letterhead, whatever X may be. Explain why this person has a new weird title that we've never seen before. Explain what this person's fringe is all about. That could be something that we require in that additional upload section. It's not something that will be used frequently though. But thank you for that. At this time, I'm done sharing my screen. I'm going to pass it over to Amelia to go through the goals and key outcomes, and then I'll be back in a bit.
Thanks, Ashley. So we're going to go over the goals and key outcomes process. You will be setting your goals and key outcomes for FY26 in the contracting process. You'll set them now, and we will review them, and you'll start collecting data on these starting July 1st. And so these are the goals and key outcomes you report with your OMT. So to set your goals and key outcomes, when you log in starting today, you'll see in your My Opportunities the goals and key outcomes files. You'll only see the ones that are applicable to your organization. So if you have a SAFE plan and a VSS, you will see both files. But if you have VSS or CSVS, you'll just see one. So what you're going to do is click on the goals and key outcomes file, and you'll get this pop-up. We put this red letter trying to warn you that if you click do not copy forward, you're going to get a blank goals and key outcomes file. So you'll have to start from scratch and you'll have to fill it all out. But if you want to copy yours from last year onto your new file, you can select this drop down and select your goals and key outcomes file. It'll say BSS OMT 2025 or Safe Plan OMT 2025 or CSBS, and it will say goals and key outcomes approved. So it'll say that so you know that that's the file. You click that and you click agree. That will load in all of your goals and key outcomes from FY25. Now brings us to the landing page. You're going to want to go into each page before you can submit. So if you try to click submit right now, it's not going to let you. You must go in and check all of them. So you'll go to your goals page. And we can see that our measures from last year are in here. If you want to make any changes, you can definitely change anything. You can change the milestones. I would look at your OMT that you've submitted so far, the first 3 OMTs of FY25, see how you're doing on your milestones. If you need to adjust them, make them larger or smaller, now is the time to do that for the next year. So you can change anything that you need to change. When you're done, you just want to click save and move on to the key outcomes. This will be the same process. So you want to review your key outcomes, make sure that they still are accurate for your organization. You can, again, check your progress from last year and make sure that you're on track. If there's anything you need to change, you can definitely change it. You'll notice that we made the skill range box a little bit bigger so that you can put more text in there. But once you read through it, it all looks good, you can click save again. And you'll have to click on the custom key outcomes. There's very few agencies that have custom key outcomes, but you will need to click it and save the page just to move on in the process. But if you have any custom key outcomes, you would enter those here. Well, your ones from the previous year would show up, and you can make any changes as well on those. So once you're done, you're going to click Submit Goals and Key Outcomes. Click OK. And it will bring you back to the landing page. Your goals and key outcomes are now in review. That's all that you need to do. If you start your goals and key outcomes file by accident and you click the don't copy forward and you did not mean to do that, and it shows up blank, you can email me and Hannah at movastats@mass.gov, and we can delete that one, and you can try again to pull over your file. So that is the process for setting the goals and key outcomes.
Thanks, Amelia.
It looks like we have a question. And Amelia, if you want to type an answer to this one, just let me know. But the question is, if we want to change the staff assigned to the grant, we recommend completing the contracting process and then update the grant and budget. The staffing change will affect our goals and outcomes data.
Yeah, if you have any staffing updates that will affect the goals and key outcomes, now is the time to make changes on those before submitting your FY26 goals and key outcomes.
And this is a similar question. Do we update the goals and key outcomes before submitting the contract?
You can do either. Both files will be available, so you can do it in either way that you would like, either order.
That's all the questions for now.
All right, so at this point, I'm going to share my screen again and go back to the slides. All right, and we're going to go through some frequently asked questions. So passing the mic to Kristen.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm going to go through some of our commonly asked questions. Some of these points we've touched upon earlier in the presentation, but it's just things that we really wanted to stress and or things that we've been asked previously. So our first one is, how will we know if MOVA has been successful in obtaining a state investment? As Kristen mentioned, we're continuing to advocate for the Massachusetts legislature to allocate 20 million through an annualized state investment. We continue to actively work with House and Senate leadership and other legislative partners to determine next steps. If we are successful, your agency may receive an increased fiscal year 26 award. We encourage you to keep an eye on MOVA's communications for updates. And of course, if you do receive an increased award, we will be reaching out to you directly. We encourage you to participate in our advocacy. I have a link that I'm going to put into the chat right now. This is for our stakeholder advocacy toolkit. That's actually our kind of main funding advocacy page on our website, but the toolkit is available if you scroll down a little bit, but I wanted to share that information. And of course, you can sign up for our policy listserv by emailing movapolicy@mass.gov, and I just put that email address in the chat as well. Ready for the next question. Okay. What is the timeline for the contracting process? So as you know, we released award notifications and pushed applications to the status of pre-contract adjustments required following the board's vote on May 19th. All contracting responses are due no later than May 30th. These responses include budget revisions as applicable, uploading the required documents, and setting OMT goals and key outcomes. Our fiscal department will be preparing contracts and ISAs shortly. These will be sent directly to the person identified as the authorized signatory in eGrants in early June. As we've previously noted, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in an upcoming slide, the email will be from Adobe Sign. We anticipate that the signed standard contract and ISA will be due back to us in mid-June. A formal date for that will be set once we have a date that they're actually going to be released. And again, this will be completed via Adobe Sign. And finally, the new fiscal year begins on July 1st, and we anticipate that all of your contracting matters will be completed by this date. Ready for the next slide? Okay. The question is, what requirements are new or different in fiscal year 26 compared to fiscal year 25? So for CSVS, which is the culturally specific victim services programming, and VSS, which is our victim and survivor services programming, we have not added any requirements. For our Safe Plan programming, we are requesting that you submit job descriptions for all staff included on the budget via eGrants. This actually may be a use of that field we got a question about a little while ago, the additional upload section. That's definitely an area where if you're a Safe Plan program and you're going to be uploading the job descriptions for staff, you can put those in there. As Ashley mentioned in her kind of run through of the process, we've revised and kind of brought back the memorandum of understanding between MOVA and the host organizations. We ask that you review that document, that you sign it, and that you upload it via eGrants, and we will sign and return a copy to you as we typically do. That's what's new. For all grants, we have removed the Civil Rights Forum. That's due to the Office for Civil Rights, or OCR, because the collection of information related to the Equal Employment Opportunity Program, or EOP, has been paused. So as a result, you're unable to verify these reporting requirements through that system. So that form has been removed from the contracting process. Things change and you once again need to verify your reporting requirements, and the tool becomes available again, we'll notify you and we'll have a process for you to get that form to us. That's the only form this year that we're not requesting be submitted that we have in the previous recent years. Okay. Next slide is question. If I have a vacancy at the start of fiscal year 26, when is the first staffing update form due? So if your budget has any vacancies on July 1st, we're going to ask that you complete the staffing update form. Again, this is the form we've previously referred to as the 30, 60, 90-day form. We transitioned the language last year, but I always like to indicate that because sometimes I just remember the old name for things and not the new one. So the staffing update form is the form formerly known as the 30, 60, 90-day form. This form allows you to provide us with an update on your hiring process If that position or positions that were vacant as of July 1st become filled within the first 30 days, we still ask that you complete the form and just let us know that, you know, you're fully staffed and or X amount of positions that were vacant have been filled. And then you'll continue to submit the form every 30 days until you've hired for those positions or your program coordinator has indicated to you that you no longer need to submit it. So the 30-day update will be due on August 1st. The 60-day update will be due on September 2nd, and the 90-day update will be due on October 2nd. And I'll put those dates in the chat as well. Okay. So the next question is, our award letter addendum indicates that we're receiving one funding source, but the award notification lists multiple sources, which is accurate. So this is a great question we got the other day that I wanted to include here. So we've, in the contracting form section of eGrants, we've uploaded your award notification, which is kind of that 2-page document that has a narrative portion of it and then a chart on page 2. And then there's the award letter addendum. It's very brief and it just outlines specific funding sources and the dollar amounts that are going to support your 26 award. So the reason the award notification lists all of the funding sources we may use in a year is just to notify you that these sources may support all or part of your award. That form is a document that we've developed and run by our funders. It kind of came to be through an audit we had years ago. And so we want to notify all of our recipients, this is the pool of money we have. These are the sources that may be used at some point during this year to fund your award. And it may be very well that you're only funded by 1 or 2 sources, but we want to include that in your initial letter just in case we need to use multiple sources to mix and match and fund your award throughout the year. So in that, you're going to see multiple VOCA awards listed. I think we have VOCA 22, VOCA 23, and I think VOCA 21 as well. We list the state bridge funding. We list COVID-19 dollars that we've received from DPH, and we list our DDTF, Drunk Driving Trust Fund dollars as well. That's the award letter, the award notification. That's that chart on page 2 of your award notification. And then your separate award letter addendum is your actual fiscal year 26 funding sources and the dollar amounts that are connected to them. So you may have 1 funding source, you may have 2. I think a few of you might even have 3. This may change throughout the year as we do our best to ensure effective spending of our grants. And if this occurs, we'll update you. We'll notify you with an updated award letter addendum. And I'm sure some of you are familiar with that process. I know we've done it a couple of times this year. And all we do is ask you to sign the form and, you know, that you're able to track your award spending, accurately maintain financial and time reporting records, and that you're aware of the special conditions that are applicable to specific funding sources as well. Okay. So what resources are available to me? This relates to the contracting process. As previously mentioned, we're going to be posting the PowerPoint slides and the recording to our website, most likely before the end of the week. Of course, we're here for assistance. You can contact your program coordinator. You can send an email to MOVA Grants. We monitor that inbox all day, and we're happy to respond to any questions that come in. We've also prepared a number of technical assistance documents, which I've put into the chat earlier. We have the fiscal year 26 award notification and contracting resource guide, and then the fiscal year 26 contracting step-by-step guide. Both of those links are available in the chat. And as Ashley demonstrated earlier, there's the help section within eGrants of the fiscal year 26 application, and you can find a lot of that information there as well. Who will be sent the standard contracts for ISA to sign? So as we've previously mentioned, the email will come from Adobe Sign. It often goes into your other mail or your junk inbox. So we definitely encourage and remind anyone who's the designated authorized signatory to keep an eye on your inbox during the contracting period. Once received, we expect that the authorized signatories will follow the instructions in the email to sign and return the standard contract or ISA for state agencies. And as Ashley talked about earlier in the presentation, we really encourage you to revisit the contact information section in eGrants to assure that both the appropriate persons listed as the authorized signatory in that section and that they have a contractor authorized signatory listing or CASL form, as we call it, on file. If any of that information is inaccurate or outdated, we ask that you update it as soon as possible because our fiscal team is going to begin mail merging and auto-populating contracts and ISAs so that we can get those out in the early June timeframe that we're aiming for. And we did get a question in the Q&A earlier that I wanted to mention here as well because it was a good one related to this. So the question was, you know, we have a CASL form uploaded in eGrants. Everything in it is still valid. The authorized signatory is listed. Nothing has changed. All of the staff are still there. Should we upload it with a current date? They indicated that it was dated 2024, but the answer to that is that you do not need to re-upload the CASL form with a new date if the information is not changed and the person who's your authorized signatory is listed on there. So we're not asking that that be redone unless changes have occurred. Next slide. Okay, I think this might be my last one. So on eGrants, there are only error checks for 3 forms. Do I have to submit the rest if I submitted them for fiscal year 25? So as Ashley indicated in her walkthrough, the forms, all forms are still required, even if you submitted them in fiscal year 25 and there are no error checks. And we encourage you to either visit your contract conditions for your specific requirements. And of course, feel free to reach out to us if you need any assistance or have any questions. And so I think I'm going to pass the FAQ over to Amelia.
Kristen, before we move on to goals and key outcomes, there was a question in the chat that I just wanted to address verbally before we move on to the next section, just because it's related to like award letter addendums and award amounts. So the question was, is it possible that securing a state investment might result in a change in the funding streams that support our FY26 award, but might not change the award amount? So I hate saying this response, but the answer is it depends. So what we are advocating 20 million from the state, similar to what we have done in the past. We have yet to make any progress on that, but we continue to be optimistic and we continue to advocate for that. So hopefully over the coming weeks, we will know what the outcome of that will be. But with that, we also acknowledge that the awards that we have been able to distribute over the last few years have not been adequate to support the level of services that need to be provided. We haven't been able to do things such as inflation increases over the last several grant cycles. So if we are successful in securing a state investment, it may result in a change to the funding allocations, and Kristen kind of explained that process a little bit through the award letter addendum process, and you would be notified by MOVA if your funding allocations do shift. Now, as Kristen indicated, most awards are supported by 2 different federal VOCA funding years and also the Department of Public Health COVID-19 Trust Fund dollars. We're able to support some of the FY26 awards. So if we do secure the state investment, there may be some adjustments to what are the current allocations, and dependent on what becomes of the state investment as well, if we are successful, we'll have to evaluate things such as how long do we have to spend the state investment? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? What are the limitations of that? And if possible, we may reevaluate the FY26 awards and see where we can make adjustments for increases. So once we know more about that, there will be communication. So as Kristen said, please make sure you are on MOVA's listservs and are constant contact to make sure those updates, but hopefully that answers that question. And if there are any other questions that we can answer today, happy to do so. But Amelia, I will pass it to you to answer some of the OMT Q&A.
Thanks. So our first question about goals and key outcomes is, what is the timeline? Your goals and key outcomes are going to be due on eGrants May 30th. You're going to start collecting the data on July 1st. So throughout the month of June, MOVA's data team will review your goals and key outcomes. You will either get a notification that it was approved or that it needs modifications, and you'll do modifications the exact same way that you do for the OMT. And then October 1st, your first OMT of FY26 will open. That's the first time you're going to be reporting on your goals and key outcomes, and those will be due October 31st. What roles have access to the goals and key outcomes process? The list here are the roles that are able to initiate and access the goals and key outcomes. So if you don't see it on your dashboard, make sure you do have one of these roles.
Hi, everybody. So the next question is, can I keep my goals and key outcomes the same as last year? This is kind of what Amelia showed in her demo walkthrough, but the answer is yes. To keep your goals and key outcomes the same as last year, select your approved goals and key outcomes from the drop-down menu that will pop up before clicking proceed to create your form for FY26. Otherwise, you will create a blank form. You'll be able to make any changes once you initiate this form. And like Amelia said, if you create a blank form on accident when you meant to copy forward, please email us. We will get that blank form deleted, and then you can redo it and copy forward. And then next, can I keep my milestones the same as last year? Like Amelia said, yes. However, before submitting, you should review your milestones to make sure that they're attainable and aligned with your current objectives. So when you go to set your milestones for FY26, please take into account any programmatic or staffing changes. And then also importantly, please look at the progress that you've made on your milestones in FY25. So if you see that you significantly surpassed milestones or are not meeting milestones due to some shifts in your agency, please look at those, take that into account, and update as needed.
How many goals and key outcomes do I need? You are required to have a minimum of 4 goals and 2 key outcomes that are being measured. You can definitely measure more than those if you would like. You can just click the add button to add as many as you would like, but we may recommend decreasing the number of goals and key outcomes you're measuring if we feel like it's too many and the data quality is being affected. Can I change my goals and key outcomes once they have been approved? Subrecipients will not be able to change goals and key outcomes on your own. If you need to make a change after they've already been approved, you can email the data team at movastats@mass.gov or your program coordinator, and we can work with you to update any goals and key outcomes that you need to change.
And then lastly, will SAFE Plan programs need to submit goals and key outcomes? Yes, SAFE Plan programs will be using the measures implemented by MOVA, but will be required to set their own milestones for both goals and key outcomes. So it'll be the same process that Amelia just walked through. And if you have a VSS program and a SAFE Plan program, you will have 2 separate goals and key outcomes forms. And I think that's the last of our questions.
All righty. Thank you, team. I know we've been answering questions throughout, both in chat and verbally live. So if there's anything that hasn't been answered at this time, go ahead and use this time to throw it in the Q&A function, and then we will answer those live.
Not seeing anything. That must have meant you were super efficient.
They're very comprehensive. I'm looking at the ones that are in like the answered in writing, and we've answered the majority of them verbally already. I do want to just put words to this one because I think it's a good question. Assuming we cannot get approval for a consultant rate increase before we complete our contracting process, What should be reflected in our budget as part of the contract? Do we complete our budget with what we hope to get as approved as the consultant rate or something else? So the answer here, which is a good answer, you can budget for the requested amounts, but we anticipate approval will be done as part of contracting. So that request to exceed consultant or standard consultant rate form and process will be available during contracting. Maybe not until next week though. We just need one more thing to occur on eGrants on the back end, but that is something that can be done and approved during the contracting process. So hopefully you don't have to do any waiting. All right, we have some questions. Can you have someone other than the authorized signatory receive the contract through Adobe Sign? Kristen Pavano, I see that you're typing. Maybe it's Kristen One. You've been
I'm just
having
gonna type the answer as
Yeah, go
you
for it.
gave it. Yep. Just gonna give the answer as you gave it. I would say we can't have someone other than the authorized signatory receive it, but we can CC somebody else. I know we have a couple of agencies who have made this request in the past. So if that applies to you, please let us know, I would say as soon as possible so that we can get that information to our fiscal department and they can make sure that someone else is CC'd on that email when it goes out to the authorized signatory. I know some of our subrecipients have different lines of approval or different layers that they need to go through. So we definitely want to work with you as best we can. So just let us know and we can include additional people in the email.
Yeah, and the sooner that you can do that is better because our fiscal team is working in the background right now, preparing that information. So that would reach out to us. All right, another question. I'm glad this is being brought up because we haven't talked about this yet. For Safe Plan and VSS staff bonuses to be paid in FY26, do those bonus amounts need to be included in the FY26 budget submission due with the contract on May 30th instead of as a future budget amendment? So let's digest that. Big question, good question. And then if so, can those budget amounts then be changed as a budget amendment in the future?
I'm reading it one more time before I answer it. We do want them, so as outlined in the request for grant applications this year, we do want the bonus amounts included in your original budget, which would be the budget that we are currently asking you to revise with your award amount. You can change the amounts via budget amendment in the future. I think, I don't know off the top of my head, but I think we also limited the percentage that could be used towards bonuses. So I'll look at that in a second and then put it in the chat. But I want to say 10%, but 10% of your award amount, but I don't want to lock into that. So yes, you want to include the bonuses on this version of your budget. You can do a budget amendment throughout the year to modify those amounts. And if for some reason you didn't include them in the original budget, we reserve the right to deny any requests to add in budgets, add in bonuses, too many V words, at any other point in the year. And I'm going to look at the RGA right now just so that I give you the correct language.
Thank you, Kristen. And Kristen One. I know it looks like she's answering this too. Great questions, y'all. Keep it coming.
Okay, so this is the language from our request for grant applications. Staff bonuses must be included and approved by MOVA during contracting. Bonuses that are requested via a budget amendment during the fiscal year may not be approved. So that is the formal language that we outlined in the RGA and what will be following for the fiscal year.
All right, so thank you, Kristen. This next question says, will the recording of this workshop be shared with us? So we won't be sending a direct link to the attendees, but you will be able to find both both the slides that we worked through today and the recording of us together on our website. Again, our goal is by the end of the week. And so Kristen put the link to what part of the website that will be on in the chat already. So you can find that information there for future reference, for colleagues' reference. But yeah, we want to make sure y'all can refer back to this in the future. Great questions.
And Amelia just added those who receive victim and survivor services funding and safe plan funding to use the Calendly link for the outcome measurement tool technical assistance.
We don't have any open questions right now. I will give it another minute or so. Hop on over to our last slide while people are thinking.
Thank you all for attending and spending your afternoon with us.
Kristen Giovanno just put into the chat where the recording and the slides will be posted. And then our contracting resource guide, and then the eGrants step-by-step guide, which are great resources. I'll stop sharing my screen. It looks like people are starting to trickle out. So again, I'll give it another few seconds, but otherwise, like everyone has said already, thank you for being here, for learning about contracting, asking really great questions. All right, if that is all the questions, you can feel free to reach out to MOBA Grants, program coordinators, myself in the future, but otherwise that's it. Thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.